Today, in spite of the admitted difficulties of defining dreams, the majority of the scientific community agrees on this working definition. Dreams are internally generated perceptions and emotions experienced during our REM sleep that are perceptually vivid, emotionally salient, and cognitively bizarre. So we can break this down into four components, right? They are internally generated, perceptually vivid, emotionally salient, and cognitively bizarre. So let's look at each of these more closely. Let's start with the phrase internally generated. Recall in our sleeping brain lecture that brain activity is actually higher in many ways during our REM sleep than it is when we are awake. During wakefulness, the brain is busy doing something called perceptual hypothesizing. It is receiving input through the senses and doing its best to interpret it, make sense of it. What is it that I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, etc.? And then figuring out how to react to it. While awake, you are too distracted by everything that is going on in the environment, your own body, etc., to do much more. But in a dream, there are fewer distractions. You are oblivious to what is going on in the exterior world and oblivious to your body lying in bed. And the brain has an even more complex job. In addition to perceptual hypothesizing, receiving input and interpreting it, the brain is also making it up and attempting to tie it up into a continuous storyline. No wonder the brain is so active while dreaming. Next, perceptually vivid. In what way? Dreams are primarily visual. In fact, they virtually always have visual components. Coming in second is auditory sensations. Sounds are in fact experienced in over half of our dreams. Tactile sensation is a distant third in that touch only shows up in about 8% of dreams. Olfactory and gustatory sensations, those of smell and taste, are even more rare, only showing up in about 4% of dreams. Fortunately, pain sensation is extremely rare. Often, dreamers report their dreams to be more like very limited thinking. Thinking lacking logical sequencing, complex relations, or different points of view. Thus, trying to accomplish something that requires more complex thinking, like preparing for a test, can be quite frustrating in a dream because thinking is so limited regardless of motivation and effort. The next component to remember is that dreams are emotionally experienced. The strength of emotions follows a bell curve, with moderately strong emotions experienced far more often than low or high emotion. Contrary to popular belief, negative emotions are experienced far more than positive emotion in dreams. The most common emotions experienced are apprehension and confusion. This last component of dreams, cognitively bizarre, is largely due to discontinuity. Something called perceptual consistency is what you might call turned off in the brain during our REM sleep. Perceptual consistency is a function of reasoning that allows us to understand that objects do not change because our view of them does. Notice how the shape of a door changes dramatically in our vision when it is opened or when it is closed. But while waking, we understand that the door has not changed shape. In the same way, while awake, we understand that an animal does not grow larger as it approaches us, even though its perceptual stamp on the retina does grow in size. This basic turning off of perceptual consistency and other reality checks of the frontal lobe is what allows our dreams to jump all over in terms of time or place, or for a person to change to another person mid act, or for a person to be a composite of two people, etc. Should we experience a lack of perceptual consistency while awake, the rational functions of the brain would cause us to challenge and question the reality of the experience, to think, this must be a visual illusion, or I must be dreaming, or I must be hallucinating, etc. But the turning off, so to speak, of neurochemicals involved in rational thinking leaves us accepting these discontinuous dream experiences unchallenged as reality while we are experiencing them.